for your life. You're hurting me.
Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody. The D-O-double-G. Hey, can't quit getting rowdy.
Welcome back to Beyond the Beermat, a podcast that can sometimes get so crazy it's almost as if when you put headphones in your pocket they go from really fine to all screwed up within 30 seconds. That's how good we are. We can do that much sort of bending and twisting. My name is Stuart Quigley, alongside me is
Billy Boy.
Right, and before we get into today's topic, we want to talk about, I mentioned this before, this trailer's a bit old now, but you hadn't seen it at this point. The classic that is going to be Batista in a film that I'm not even sure is going to be released in the cinemas over here. I'm actually pretty sure it's going to be straight to Sky Cinema, which may be one of the first iterations of this cinematic masterpiece. But I believe the title is Final Score. It might be one of these films that's actually told something different in America to here. It's Batista. It's in West Ham's ground. It's basically Batista in Die Hard in West Ham's ground.
Yeah.
And it is quite literally a feast for the eyes.
I think it looks amazing. I don't know if you played Max Payne 3. Mm-hmm. But one of the best bits of the game is when he goes through, I think it's Sao Paulo Stadium, and you get to shoot people on it. It looks like a replica of that, basically. So, to be honest, if you go to West Ham's ground, there's not many people that you find there, and you'd be like, yeah, I think Batista could take on most of these. Forget Forever Blowing Bubbles. He's forever taking on everyone. You wait till Elijah Wood comes at the stand and takes him out at the end.
It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all about the West Ham Cinematic Universe. We get everyone combined at the end.
And GSE versus Dave Batista. There's only one winner.
Elijah Wood.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
He does look pretty hard when he comes out swinging wildly.
But no, in that regard then, it does sort of bring me to a debate that we've sort of had off air many a time. Batista and The Rock. So you got Batista in Die Hard in West Ham's ground, and The Rock, who recently had a film released, which was basically just Die Hard.
We're talking about Skyscraper,
yeah.
I've not seen that yet. I do want to see it. It is Die Hard in a taller building.
Yes. Which could have been a better name, really.
Yeah.
And also he's got a prosthetic leg.
Exactly. One-legged man in an ass kicking
Forget
country.
plot, forget action, forget scenes that require your attention. All we need is, how do we make The Rock even worse? Oh man, he's got one leg. How can he do this?
Exactly. I'd like to know how he acted the role.
Probably the same way he normally does. He looks at everyone else and goes, you're not on my level, and then he beat up the bad guys.
Good point, man.
Yeah.
In 7 seconds.
Exactly. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I have heard, actually, that there is a possibility of him coming back for next year's WrestleMania. And
It's Elias.
yeah,
Should be good. It could be like a rock. Oh, it's like the rock concert, isn't it?
Yeah. They tend to go well and not make me want to, throw something at the TV.
The Rock's had a couple of people on his rock concert. The first one was with Austin, and he made sure he beat him up. And then didn't Vicky Guerrero come out and he verbally destroyed her and called her a slut?
Yeah. One of the classic, Vicky Guerrero has paid her dues time and time over in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon can't wait for an opportunity to absolutely shame her on every level that is humanly possible. I will say this much about Vicky Guerrero. She got more heat than most of the roster.
I went to a show and I think John Cena was in the ring and I can't remember who was destroyed, but Vicky Guerrero come out and the booing was that loud you could not hear her talk on the microphone.
There's been segments, I can't remember specifics, but where Cena was in the ring with Vicky Guerrero and someone else. Mm. And he said that he couldn't hear her, and they were next to each other.
Yeah.
And it's true. The heat she got was on another level.
Yeah. I don't understand why though.
All she said was, excuse
her voice
me.
is annoying, I give her that one.
Yeah, but all she had to say was, excuse me, and the whole arena goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is ironic given the fact that you're talking about the Rock concert, bringing this all back, and all the Rock has to do is plays music, and I go, oh, this is the ultimate villain of all time. He's back.
Villain? He's great when he comes back. When was the last time he lost to Cena, didn't he?
Did he?
Lost the title at WrestleMania 29.
Oh, right.
Because he owed him one from the once in a lifetime thing the year before. So
twice in a lifetime.
He did twice in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Good marketing.
To be fair, it is good. Everyone bought into it, this idea that it would be once, and that's it.
Yeah.
And by the way, stay tuned for that, because that kind of bleeds into what we're talking about later. But the idea of if The Rock does come back and fight Elias, it's neither here nor there. It's just the fact that it's one of these things. You don't get many that go from wrestling to Hollywood and actually have it a big deal when they come back. But Batista and The Rock are two. And funny enough, Batista has actually gone to a place where you would never have thought he'd go in terms of reputation.
He's gone straight to the top, really, hasn't he? Bond it wasn't his first film, but
Guardians of the Galaxy was his first film, which is a huge Marvel
straight
hit.
to the top. Everyone loves that character.
Yeah.
And then he went into the Bond one. Mm-hmm. Although I can't even remember what it's called. I watched the worst film of all time.
Oh, I know the one you're on about, I think.
Do you know
Is it Man with the Thousand Fists or something?
No, I've not seen
Is
that.
he a kickboxer?
No.
Okay, he's in both of them.
Oh, right. He's a gangster in this one. Bear in mind, it was £3 I bought it at the shop for. So you kind of guess what you're going to get. But it said starring Dave Bautista, and it was just a picture of him with a gun on the front cover. I think he was a copper, he was an undercover copper with his partner. And about halfway through the film, he had about 3 lines and then got shot in the head. This is your man.
I'll tell you what, that would be, the way you've described it sounds like a terrible film, but if the moment before he gets shot in the head, Triple H comes up and gives him the thumb down, then it'd be the greatest film ever.
I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. But then, you bang on though, the idea that, like, I know that Hulk Hogan back in the day did all the films, and like Roddy Piper's got certain cult classic films that they did, and there is that sort of branching off, and Jesse Ventura has a special place in my heart for both the Running Man and Predator.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Man, I ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Which is one of the all-time great film quotes.
Quality.
Definitely. And maybe it's just the fact of, like, time in, like, modern sort of cinema, in that, like, stars seem like bigger stars, almost. Which is kind of the reverse of wrestling, in a way. That, like, stars in wrestling don't seem as big, but stars in Hollywood seem even bigger. Because if you look at The Rock's actual film career, it's garbage.
Oh, he started off garbage. He's got better
What
later on.
good film has he been in?
The Tooth Fairy was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that on a childish level, but what was that film? I don't know, was it Something Island 2? When he did the peck puff of...
God.
I've got Love Island in my head, and I know
Jeez, no, that was, The Rock in Love Island would be genuinely terrible, but at least it would mix of terrible things altogether. Are you on about Jumanji?
No. It was when we went to Wrestlemania 28. It was around then.
The Mysterious Island 2 or whatever?
That's the one, yeah. Little baby elephants and...
I didn't, surprisingly enough, it wasn't on my go-to list, to be honest with you, of box office hits. I mean, box office shits. I don't know.
I've never watched it. Let's get his videography.
It's hiding to me. Do you know what funny thing is that, like, I would say the best thing that The Rock has contributed to cinema, as far as I could see, is the Scorpion King, and only because that gives us the Goldust and Booker T skit.
Is that the Scorpion King when I got a sword, sucker?
Yeah.
That was good, that was.
I'm the 5-time WCW champion, and I got a sword. Unbelievable. But, like, Batista, you said, Marvel, storied franchise.
Yep.
Bond, again, storied franchise. He's in Blade Runner, the sequel, as well. The Rock doesn't have one film on his IMDb that is anywhere near close to any of those 3.
What about Moana?
One of our wrestling correspondents, someone that isn't here, is a very big fan of that film. We'll go to bat for that film big time, but I can't go quite to the same degree for that.
Is Mr. B?
It is indeed, yes,
okay.
yes. Mr. No Surname, yeah. I will say this much. Have you seen the other guys? Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell, Samuel L. Jackson, and The Rock. The other guys.
I haven't seen that, no. Is it any good?
The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson play what I would consider as the, like, how I see The Rock, basically. Just this over-the-top, arrogant bastard, and it is pretty much spot on, to be fair.
He's done well for himself, though, hasn't he?
I know, like, I believe he's now the highest paid actor in Hollywood, or at least the highest grossing, so one of those two.
It's only because he does, like, 8 films a year or so, where it's like Tom Cruise will do 1 and make it really good.
Without Mission Impossible is, can we get The Rock back in the wrestling ring for more than 2 months at a time when he doesn't just win the title? So that's impossible.
Fair point.
The one thing I will give you is Fast and Furious, and they are extending that Fast and the Furious universe. But if The Rock ever in a Fast and Furious film says, I love the Fast and the Furious fans, and I'm never going to leave the Fast and the Furious franchise, that's when I know he's going to leave.
I like him in that. I think he's good.
I can't wait for...
Nothing to do with street racing anymore, but still great.
Yeah. Ironically enough, you mentioned Mission Impossible. Like, Fast and Furious and Mission Impossible have become, like, who can do the most ridiculous stunts of all time.
Yeah.
And then all we need to do is get the crossover of what you said, The Rock and Tom Cruise, and then all we have to do is put that in West Ham's ground, and then Batista can rule them all.
The ultimate film.
Indeed. Yeah. So, okay, what we're going to do then, we'll talk about all sorts, and one of the things that we mentioned then was this Rock and John Cena thing, the once in a lifetime, big, huge sort of build-up, as it were. And just from a personal perspective, this is partly the reason why we're talking about this. I remember very vividly watching WrestleMania 27, and then they had the Raw the next night. And I already had this in my head anyway, but like they had the Raw, and then the day after that, we personally spoke to each other and we're going, because they set up Rock and Cena, and this is the idea of like, They were going to do it at some point because...
Well, they threatened to do it 2 years. Was it? They tried to do it at 25 or 26, weren't they? And the Rock was too busy, inverted commas.
Cared about the fans.
He really cared about the fans and went off to film the Tooth Fairy or whatever it was. Sorry, I remember myself laughing.
I was going to say, you like The Rock.
Yeah, I like The Rock, but Jesus. Yeah. Oh yeah, they threatened to do it and we said we were going to go anyway.
The moment
the
they
second
said
they said that was going to be the match. Because that is a... I know we're leading on to this. That is a dream match.
Yeah, no, that's the point of this podcast. Is this idea of two guys being put together that you would never necessarily think would happen, but you know it's wrestling. Like, it's always going to happen at some point. Yeah. And I think it's a really strange concept of... I'm asking this point blank now. Is that concept dead in 2018?
Almost, but not yet. Kenny Omega. If you brought Kenny Omega into the WWE, there's at least 5 or 6 matches you watch straight away. You're Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, SmackDown. Jesus, Raw's poor in it.
SmackDown's always been the wrestling show, to be fair.
Just as an example, yeah. Roman Reigns versus Kenny Omega would be the money because everyone hates Roman Reigns. Everyone loves Kenny Omega in a minute.
Okay, I'll make this point, and then what we're going to do is we'll come back to this at the end because I want to do it sort of chronologically almost. Finn Balor's the same thing, and we did have that.
What, when Finn Balor came in?
Yeah.
Not to the same extent.
I would argue it was close.
I suppose so. He'd say he was a big name. Well, he was a big name in Japan. Leader of the Bullet Club. Yes, big name coming in. Perhaps it was my lack of knowledge about Japanese wrestling, but I didn't really know who Prince Devitt was at that point.
Well, fair enough. Okay, I think that's a good point to sort of just pause for now because I want to sort of rewind all the way back to the, I'd say, mid-90s. The Attitude Era is sort of kicked off with what I think and I've always thought is a combination of get these really big stars, or guys, they're not even necessarily stars, but guys that were kept apart for long periods of time. And then you're like, I want to see these guys fight, because it's like, I've never seen it.
And also, just on the back of that, there was a possibility of the switchover. There were 2 big world-class companies at that point, where the WCW guys can come over, half of the WWF roster went to WCW for a payday.
Yeah.
You know,
you had a nice sort of recycling of talent almost.
Yeah, WCW got the old guys, WWE produced new ones, and it went round in a circle.
It's almost like money laundering, but like wrestling. Imagine wrestling's one big con. Oh no. I think the other thing as well that's worth pointing out back then is that you've not quite got, and this is going to sort of factor into when we get to sort of modern times, this idea of Hulk Hogan and Warrior is my one example that I would think of straight away. And I mean, you could go Hogan, Andre, but if you actually look back at it, Hogan and Andre did have interactions before. Yeah. My point is that the two guys never really met. WrestleMania would be, or whenever it would be the first time they've ever fought, sort of thing. Yeah. And I know Hogan and Andre was this whole sort of big deal of like, could he body slam and all this, but like, they were fighting on house shows as well.
Yeah, fair point. I don't know about the back history of Warrior and Hogan. You are right, I don't think they ever fought. That was one of the matches, massive matches I remember as a kid.
It's this idea of keeping guys apart.
Yeah,
so you're like, fuck, when this happens, I've got
to watch it, got to. Just leading back to now, I suppose that's meant to be the point of Lesnar, isn't it? I know everyone's not seeing that way, but Lesnar doesn't fight for 6 months. You want to see him come back, and when he comes back, you want to watch him, and that's the complete opposite of what I said last time, by the way. That's the point, that's what he's meant to be.
I get it, and also as well, like, from a legitimate sporting sort of sense, there's this idea of, and I mean, I know boxing is slightly different, but it's not quite the same, in the sense of, yes, if you get like 2 fighters to have a go, even if they're evenly matched, if one guy bangs the other out, he doesn't fight him again a month later.
No, that's true. But how many times do boxers fight a year generally? The top
2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah. So they only got 2 or 3. But these guys have to fight on Raw. Every week.
And that's the point. It's like a good sort of boxing rivalry, as it were. You get these classic one-on-one matches, like you're going back to like Muhammad Ali, and then sort of in our era, like Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis sort of fights. Then they're sort of one-off fights. Yeah, I agree. The best you get in a boxing rivalry, you might get 2, at worst 3. So, yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that like wrestling feuds should be like that kind of thing. 3 big matches, if that.
Yeah, but they can do what they want at the house shows. Let's be real. No one really cares about the house shows except the real. Do you think
that counts in 2018?
House shows?
Yeah, no. Purely the point you're making. I agree with you, but the fact that like back in like the 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, these kind of things weren't being broadcast as much, even with internet reports and stuff like that. So do you think that point still stands even now?
Okay, if you go onto 411 and you say house resort to, I don't know, Nebraska, do you read that? Because
I used to care, but now I don't.
Oh, God, I don't care about it. All I care about is what's on Raw, what's on SmackDown, and what's on the pay-per-view. I don't care about house shows.
Like, let's be honest with you.
House shows used to... I've been to live shows and I've been to house shows. Live, I actually prefer watching the house shows.
Yeah, because you get matches.
Yeah, you get matches, yeah, exactly. You don't get 20-minute segments, it's just a waste of time, do you?
What, like when Mark Henry took Trish Stratus on a date when we went to a bar?
Oh, no, that wasn't a waste of time, that was a
classic Encanto. It was one for the ages.
That was amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that, because one of the shows that we've actually seen in person, a house show this is, not actually a live show, and or a WrestleMania 25 or 28, if you're keeping score. I remember going to see a house show, and it was a random SmackDown house show, and it was Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker in like a bike chain match.
I remember that. Didn't he take a kicked out of an F5, didn't he?
Yeah, and
I think he won the match, actually. I think
very quite possibly. And this was in the build-up to them fighting on pay-per-view, and it's funny because the idea of putting a match like that on a house show now is ludicrous, I think.
Although, I'm not sure whether it's the same show. I remember viewing it from a very similar angle. Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle.
I remember this, yes.
And I'm pretty sure it was on the same show as Lesnar and Taker.
Very, very possible.
Alright.
But like, what the part of house shows does versus going to see like live shows that are taped for TV, different slightly in America, because if you go to see a Raw, you go to see a Raw.
Yeah.
And
it's live, isn't it, Raw?
Yeah, I think one of the...
When they record it here, it's not... It's very
an awful
segmented.
show, both live and when you watch it back. Even more so when you watch it back. You know what's going to happen as well, that's the worst part.
True.
So you know you're about to get kicked in the balls, you still have to feel the pain of getting kicked in the balls.
I think Lesnar summed it up nicely on Raw, didn't he?
Oh,
I don't watch a show, Paul. Why would I watch a show? That's how millions of people feel every week.
Yeah. I want to get back to this idea of, in 2018, I'm not sure whether dream matches work, but with that in mind, I want to work up through a period of, we've done the sort of early 90s, the big sort of Hulk Hogan, Warrior, this, that, the other. Then we get to the Attitude Era, we arrive at this place, we've got WCW, WWF going head to head, and you will have done the same as I, and quite a few people listening, if they're at least of a remote similar age, will have done the same thing. You had those cards where it was like, what would happen if you had a pay-per-view?
Yeah.
And it would be like, ironically enough, it would always be headlined by Goldberg versus Austin.
Yeah, that's the dream match that never happened. Although, what would have happened at the end of WrestleMania 20.
Yeah.
Just stunner, and that's the end of
it. Yeah, exactly.
Austin was always the better wrestler.
Oh yeah, but like the idea of if we'd ever got it, and I think that's probably what part of the reason, and it does actually go to show you how far Lesnar came in such a short space of time, that this idea of Goldberg, Lesnar... In fact, actually, I want to ask this question. Was Goldberg Lesnar a substitute Goldberg Austin? And that's partly why it got shit on as well.
Sort of, and I don't think it helped with the fact that Austin was announced as the referee. That did not help in the slightest.
No, that's what I mean, in terms of they were trying to do your Goldberg, or have those segments where Goldberg sort of confronted Austin, or have something like that. They tried to sort of have the match that they could never have by having them two in the same ring together, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It was just a poor man's version.
And then you went down the sort of the various cards, and we still talk about this to this day, and the amount of times this match has been rumoured had never actually happened. Sting and The Undertaker.
When they started doing those segments, I can't remember what WrestleMania it was, when they went into that Outback hut, and it was meant to be Sting, and it turned out it was...
Jericho.
No, it wasn't Jericho. Who was it? It caught 27. It was definitely Undertaker coming out. Everyone thought it was... I don't know what it was. Sting and Taker's a match that everyone would take right now. It was like Cena and Taker last year, and there aren't many people that can honestly say they don't want to see that match.
No?
It's a dream match.
This is the whole point. I don't know how many matches, when we come to today, that there are left in that sort of sense of the word.
I just wish John Cena hadn't drunk so much beer before he put it.
Oh man, he would have.
That was his downfall, drinking beer.
You can't see me because he's too pissed. All I would say is this: is it so much to do with the fact that when you get the merging of WCW and WWF, and also the influx of what was a class of wrestlers coming through OVW that is unheard of, Batista, John Cena, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, right? You mix all that with the talent that already exists, but pretty much you can't miss, to be honest with you. And what I want to do want to ask is, are there any matches that you really wanted to see that you didn't?
Talking cross promotion.
Any matches?
I always wanted to watch Shawn Michaels versus The Rock.
Properly, yeah.
Properly?
Yeah.
Yeah, because The Rock, I mean, when The Rock was... You could see The Rock slowly emerging. When he joined the Nation, it was specifically that promo that Farouk was cutting and The Rock stood at the side of him making hand gestures and rolling his eyes. That, to me, that was the start of him properly.
Yeah.
And then he built on and on and on. And Shawn Michaels was played Dick, but he was the man behind DX. And I don't know why, probably backstage politics. He didn't want to put him over, did he?
Back then, that doesn't... Oh, well, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but it wouldn't surprise me, but...
Old Sean playing politics? That never happened.
He had the smile at that point.
He did have a smile, that's it. Tried to...
A smile to the bookers when they said he was going to win.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I love that story that he was going to refuse to drop the title to Austin at WrestleMania 14, and Taker wrapped his fists in tape and basically told him he's going to do the job for the contest. So I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when that happened. Sean must have bricked it because 98% of people would.
I was going to say, Undertaker's got at least a good... Funny enough, that would have been a good sort of setup for the feud later on. Forget like the White Knight versus what the Undertaker was at that time of WrestleMania 25 and 26. That we could have had. Man, you told me to jump to Bret Hart.
Yeah, but that's a match I always wanted to see.
I've got a couple I always wanted to see. I'll give you the easy one off the top of my head because you just mentioned Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero was supposedly on tap for that next year's WrestleMania just before Eddie died.
Was it?
Yeah, and that hurts.
That'd have been an amazing match.
So much in terms of how good that match would have been.
Yeah, that's two of the best wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, and the thing is that like. And the other one I want to mention is, it's a sort of similar sort of style actually, because I really like technical wrestlers. There's probably a lost episode of Thunder somewhere that I'm not sure about, because who knows in WCW, but I really wanted to see Lance Storm and Chris Benoit.
Lance Storm is one of the most underrated wrestlers, criminally.
Yes.
Underrated. Technically as a wrestler.
It's funny actually, if you've ever listened to any of the podcasts he's done, and I know he stopped doing his podcast now, but like...
Didn't he slag you off on Twitter or something?
I made a joke to him about The Rock being in the Hall of Fame, and he went, well, duh. And my brain was like, that's kind of the point, that's the joke.
That's good enough to me, he slagged you off on Twitter.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But this idea of, like, Lance Storm is one of the guys that, like, generally speaking, could have done anything with anyone, really. And he didn't have a terrible career, but I feel like it's one of the sort of all-time missed opportunities.
I think he's on a similar plateau to Kurt Hennig, isn't it? He always had the technical ability. Kurt Hennig he had far more charisma than... You know, some people don't look like a world champion.
Yeah.
I'm including Jeff Jarrett in that, by the way.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett shouldn't be a world champion. It's only because his daddy runs a business.
No, it's because he uses guitar shots and unfair means.
Okay, fair point.
Also, Global Force Wrestling's still going, do you know?
Is it?
Technically.
I thought I shut it down when Impact become not Impact.
I googled this the other day, and according to the actual Wikipedia page, it's not officially defunct yet, even though all the titles are amalgamated into TNA titles.
Oh, right, okay. Who's on the roster then?
It's the same sort of roster as like what it has been. Like the website still exists. They do shit. No, I'm pretty sure they're doing like online pay-per-views, like the original TNA.
Online pay-per-views?
Yeah.
All right. Is that like in like Matt Hardy's backyard or something?
I was gonna. I knew you'd come.
All of you, all 33
Yeah.
of you.
The sad part is you watch it and then it turns out the second match is me v you. Didn't even see us film it. Like that's how good the card is. But yeah, like so you've got that sort of era of guys where you could sort of throw any two guys around from each other. We're talking about Lance Storm, and Lance Storm, for me, like you're saying, oh, he's a dream match versus someone. Someone would then turn around and argue like, you could pick anyone and you pick that. But that was the point back then. You could literally pick anyone.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to sort of bring it back around to sort of, you got your John Cena versus, and this you had the Raw versus SmackDown thing, and then there were certain guys you wanted to see John Cena fight on Raw that you couldn't fight on SmackDown. He did that. It's the same with anyone.
Yeah, that was the point in the brand split, wasn't it? You trade people over to
fresh matches.
Yeah, fresh matches for 12 months, and then 3 months in, you realise they're going to fight each other 98 times over 7 weeks.
Well, this is the thing. Like, at some point, the product got to a point where the way they were doing things was so sort of repetitive that it didn't matter whether it was a good match.
Yeah.
It was just you see it over and over again. Like we talked about him at the start, and this is before he started feuding for West Ham's ground. But the amount of title shots Batista got in that 1 year for no reason,
deservedly so.
Jesus Christ,
saved 32,000 people.
yeah. So you get to, and I'm not going to lie, there were certain. I wouldn't call it a dream match by any stretch of the imagination, but like Goldberg comes in and Goldberg, Triple H. I would even argue before that there's a guy brought in, and there's a feud that happens. And on paper, this is possibly one of the best feuds you could have had at the time. Scott Steiner and Triple H was the big big heel from WCW at the time when it closed, and Triple H was the big. I don't want to say the big dog, but like he's effectively the WWE guy. These are the two biggest heels from the two biggest companies. They fight each other, and they're doing fucking arm wrestling segments.
Yeah, I know. That's like a very old school thing to do, though, isn't it? Like that was something you did in the late 80s. Oh, I'm gonna fucking beat you at basketball or whatever you do. I don't know. They wasted that feud. At that point, Steiner...
The matches were terrible.
Yeah, Steiner couldn't...
And that can't help.
Wrestle. Triple H, right? For all the slagging off he gets, Triple H can pull a good match off. And I don't care what Bret Hart says, right? Because he slags him off quite a lot. He's just an average wrestler. I don't know why he's from New York, by the way.
Yeah,
and Italian. But anyway, Bret Hart slags him up and says he has average matches all the time.
You lost it in your own attempt at a voice.
That was a terrible accent.
I was going to say, the best part about it, you said New York and Italian. I was going to say New York, Italian, and hasn't ever heard the English language before. But, I think the thing with this brings me on to my next point, was that you can have your dream match, the two guys that you want to fight, and you'd be like, yeah, I want these two guys to fight. But I think one of the things that was lost along the way, when you've got all these guys, was they need to fight for a reason.
That's what's gone in wrestling now. What did Bobby Lashley come out and interrupt Elias for on Raw? Why? Well, this feud is started because he interrupted him. Yeah. Why did he come out and interrupt him?
It just did a thing. No, that was it.
Yeah, exactly. He's just done it. He doesn't hate him, right? Fucking pointless feud, really.
I'll go back to the absolute sort of draw of all time, The Rock and Austin, right? That became a dream match. That wasn't necessarily a dream match, but it became one.
What were they fighting for?
The top prize in the business.
Is that not what the whole thing should be about?
I agree, but they were fighting for something, and it was the idea that these two guys... It's a really ironic thing, actually.
They fought for the IC title first as well.
Oh, yeah, it's a history. I don't think... It's one of these rare examples where The Rock and Austin fought in the main event once, and then that one main event, the whole build-up to it, the whole fact that they'd gone through the IC title program, the fact that they'd gone through two dramatic character changes along the way, it made them then, we spoke before about this whole idea of like boxing in a sporting contest, you don't necessarily see 2 or 3, but with Rock and Austin you wanted to see 2 or 3 so badly because of the way these two guys meshed together. And the fact of the matter is that I think in today's day and age, the talent is as good, if not arguably better, wrestling-wise, than it was then. But
they're more athletic by a mile.
But the problem is, what they do now is they just go, 2 wrestlers, they're really good, we'll put them together, that's all we need.
That's true, and I don't like it. Like Samoa Joe, right, attacked AJ Styles the other night. Why? Because he wants to be world champion, right? And he's going to do anything to get to be world champion. And I get that. There's 2 good wrestlers there as well, so they're going to have a good match at the end of it.
You mentioned AJ Styles because I think the epitome of this goes back to something I was thinking about at WrestleMania, which is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, which is like, for me, I really wanted to see this match. I've been waiting for this match in WWE, but I've seen the New Japan stuff, and I was waiting for like WrestleMania, AJ Styles, Nakamura, going to be amazing. And what did they give us?
Average. Bang average.
What I think they hurt themselves was by the fact that they sold us the match was going to be amazing before anything.
Yeah, but they were selling that match on the pay-per-view as, oh, this is a dream match. There's Bret Hart again, by the way.
Yeah.
This is a dream match. It's never going to live up to the hype. But the only time I can ever remember that is genuinely Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at 20.
I think this is different, actually, because I'm going to give you 2... Like, you hit in exactly what I was about to say. I'll give you 2 examples. Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle. Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. One we were told was going to be a good match. The other we weren't.
Yeah.
And Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle is a great match. And it plays into the fact that it had a build-up. It had the idea of Kurt Angle had this personality of like, I'm a clean-cut American, I've done all this. Eddie Guerrero, you're a bastard because you used to do drugs. And they're both world-class, amazing wrestlers.
They told a story.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say a second ago. They've not completely, a lot of them have lost the art of telling a story. Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast with Jim Cornette a few days ago. By the way, I hated him growing up. And the more I listen to his podcast, the more I think he makes sense about the business, and he knows so much about the business. He said they've lost the art of storytelling. Even just little things like when the babyface has the combat, the heel just stands there now. They don't look like afraid. Oh crap! I really didn't mean to wind you up or anything. There's none of that now. They just stand there and go, "I'll punch you again." Yeah. There's no facial reaction. There's nothing to the audience. Nothing. A lot of them lost it. The top ones have got it.
Yeah. The problem with that, though, in a sort of match sense, and I don't know because I've never stepped in the ring nor will I ever. I'm too fat these days. It would be the biggest sort of turnaround for a human being since DDP if I actually managed to become a wrestler at this point, but it's never going to happen. There are loads of little things you can do. I don't think you're taught the little things anymore. I think you're taught the big things because we need stars. We don't need wrestlers.
Yeah, I think they're taught to wrestle, which they're pretty fucking good at.
Yeah.
All of them. And they're taught to cut a promo, and that's it. It's only people like...
okay, I'll give you that.
It's only people like... That's what I wish. When I saw that Scott Hall was down at NXT the other day. Mm-hmm. Scott Hall, for all his faults, is a great mind in the business, and so is Jake Roberts. And they need people like that. No offence to Prince Albert, what's his name?
Lord Tensai, no.
Yeah, no offence to Lord Tensai, right?
Matt Bloom.
Yeah, no offence to him, but he was an average wrestler. Looks the part. He's an average wrestler, and I don't think he wasn't the greatest character or anything, and he can't portray that over to the younger kids. The kids that are coming through.
I think the problem with the whole thing as a training process is the fact that every audience is going to be different, and you can't say to someone, do this, it's going to lead to this. I think AJ Styles and Nakamura, going back to what we're saying, are handcuffed by the fact that WWE have spent, instead of giving the audience a storyline that they can buy into, WWE has spent 3 months, because Nakamura won the Rumble, just saying, this will be a good match, that's it.
Yeah,
no reason why they're fighting.
That's true.
Just, this will be a good match.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you could have just tiny little things rather than low blowing someone for 4 months solid, which is a bit weird, I'm going to be honest. Yeah. Besides that, other than I'm going to take your title, there was no rivalry. I know they wanted two faces going into WrestleMania, right? Styles is the champion and he's over with people, so they shouldn't have turned heel. But if they're going to turn Nakamura heel, they should have done it before WrestleMania. I
think there are ways of doing it with both of them as faces, but I think that the WWE...
It can't be a 3 month build if they do it that way.
I would actually argue that's enough time, that's more than enough time, but they don't do it sort of organically enough. Yeah, because what you can do is... easy comparison I can make is this, right? You're going to have to bear with me, so strap yourself in, this is going to go some directions. Marvel is kicking DC's ass in terms of films.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
DC have the bigger characters.
Correct.
Marvel brought these characters to films. Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, Thor. I'm not being funny.
Myth-carders.
Yeah. If you go back, like in terms of comic book history, no one gave a shit about any of these guys. But what they did was they brought all these guys through. They gave them individual like stories and whatever. Whereas DC just went, we've got Batman, we've got Superman, we've got Wonder Woman. We'll just throw them onto a cinema screen and you will wet yourself. Do you know what happened? No one cared.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good analogy, actually. I like that.
Just because you have two or more really good, really big ideas or guys or properties or whatever you want to call it, doesn't necessarily mean that you can just shove them together and that be it. I'll go back even further. Jericho and CM Punk didn't quite work as well as it should have.
See, I would argue that was a great story, looking back. You're an alcoholic and your sister... Sorry.
It's a retread of something else.
Your dad's an alcoholic. I know it's a retread, but...
It just didn't work as well as it should have. I know it was sort of, compacted down by the fact that what you've got of the main event of that WrestleMania was so much bigger than everything else. It's a really weird thing to do, whereby, dream matches are so few and far between nowadays that the idea... It's mind-boggling to me, just even thinking about it as I stand here now, that Eddie Guerrero Kurt Angle was, third down on that card on the main event.
Yeah.
So was Punk and Jericho. But it seems like one was much more important than the other, and I can't think why.
It's sort of a tough position, because I know you don't think the same as me.
I think that was the best match of that night, which is hilarious. No, Punk and Jericho?
Yeah, see, it should have been. I think it should have been. But the Hell in a Cell, to me, was a great match. Right, it told a great story, and you got to admit, and there was a standing ovation at the end of that match.
I agree, but it was two old men just doing high spots and then resting for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but I genuinely thought the streak was over for 4 seconds.
So did I, and that's the one spot that makes me love that match rather than dislike it.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I think they were trying a technical match with anger, because they put if you got DQ'd, you lose the title. And I think they were doing a technical match, but he was pissed off, and it should have been more of a fight, I think.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
But do you not think, though, that, like, fast-forwarding that ever so slightly, so you've got, like, what I spoke about before Finn Balor comes in, and, like, the Bullet Club as a whole, you're like, oh, man, if the Bullet Club comes in, can you imagine all the feuds we're going to get? And then, like, Gallows and Anderson come in and they get jobbed. And then, like, you get Nakamura and AJ Styles, they both come in on all the matches that we could get, and they're not great, as we've mentioned. So when you're saying, as we go back to the very start of this podcast, if we get Kenny Omega coming in, what's to say that the same thing's not going to happen again?
That's why he won't come. I don't think he'll ever sign for the WWE because of that. He makes enough money in Japan. He gets to Ring of Honor there. He probably makes enough money to keep himself happy.
Mm-hmm. The money's not the issue anymore, which is
weird.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's weird as well. Yeah.
When you've got two big companies,
that
the money would be better for them then.
Exactly.
It's not. It's better for them now.
If you offer me 50k a year in a job and I wasn't happy, or you offer me 25k a year and I enjoyed what I did, I'd probably stick to 25k because I've got a nice, comfortable lifestyle.
And also as well,
I like living. I've got no commitments.
Yeah, the schedule outside of WWE is a lot easier as well.
So I don't think Omega or anything, and I don't think Cody Rhodes would. Well, he might come back for the money, but
no, I actually think of the two of them, Rhodes is the less likely to come back because Rhodes has the sort of, he grew up in this business, he knows everything there is to know about it, and he's showing now that, like, in a weird way, I actually think this is a podcast for another day, but I think Rhodes is growing up to be sort of a very big pillar in the industry.
I think he is. I think he'll be a very big businessman one day.
I think of the two of them, they'll probably both come back at some point because that's how the wrestling business works. But what I'm thinking of is the fact that, yes, do I want to see them now versus the reality of when they're there, what's going to actually happen? Yeah. And I don't necessarily know what the answer to that is, other than just be better with the allure of something. And I'll give you the perfect example. When Bret Hart came back finally after all the X amount of years after the Montreal Screwjob, within about 3 weeks of him coming back, he was just another guy.
Yeah, he was, good point actually, I never thought of that.
It's a weird scenario in the sense that there are more wrestling matches out there today that I really want to see than ever, and yet I don't have the faith in the company to give me the wrestling match that I want almost. Even though if they give me the same two guys fighting, I don't think it'll be what I want it to be, which is almost partly on me, but very much so I would say the emphasis is on them.
Yeah, there's a difference between the match and the feud though, isn't there?
If you take the context out of it and you just watch it for what it is, ironically enough, you can end up enjoying it a lot more. Because if you watch it with, oh, what are they going to do with this guy? And then you're like, oh shit, if he loses, he's going to be jobbed out, he's in a doghouse. Yeah. And then, oh, what they're doing with this guy. But like, if you just sit there and watch it, it actually becomes slightly easier to watch. But at the same time, does it not feel like a massive waste of the huge amount of talent that there is at their disposal?
It does, but that comes down to that's nothing to do. Like, the Authors of Pain, right? I've said this to you before.
How many tag teams have come from NXT and you'd be like, I can't wait for them to get to the main roster? Same with NXT.
Well, I'll be honest, I always thought the Ascension was shit, so I'm not counting them. Right. Besides that, Dash and Dawson, too small. No offence, like too small.
Enzo and Cass?
One could talk, one could fight.
They were a big deal.
Good. They were a big deal when they come through, but one did stuff in a hotel room he maybe shouldn't have. And the other one
did stuff with a midget he probably shouldn't have. There's an interesting couple of sentences for you.
Yeah, but the Authors of Pain, right? They look like badasses. They fight like badasses. They can't talk, so they should have a manager, right? But they kept off telly for weeks because the writers go, well, I can't think of anything for them to do. That's your fucking job. No offence, your job is to get them something to do.
It's the same with Almas or SmackDown.
I don't know. I think he's doing alright actually.
Yeah, but he's like, how many matches has he actually had since he's moved? Like 3.
Yeah, he's meant to be like his star. No, touch you. They've put him in a feud with Rusev, haven't they?
Let me ask you this question then. Do you think then, in 2018 and then going forward, because we're about to start, it feels really weird that like we've finished all this, we got to like just about SummerSlam, but we're about to sort of start the WrestleMania cycle again. So,
not far.
Let me ask you the question. Can they get you hyped for matches again?
Dream matches or matches?
Dream matches and matches.
Can I say, right, that is a dream match, right? And I know everyone crapped on it. Sorry, I'm pointing at a sign, no one can see it.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns.
That's like most wrestlers in WrestleMania season. They just point at the signs.
Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker is a dream match.
Yeah.
One of the best characters versus... And I know he says it, and I know everyone's paid up about it, but he is the man. Roman Reigns is the man, whether you like it or not. He is a good wrestler.
See, I liked everything about Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker, and I'm struggling in my head to figure out why I didn't think it was a dream match. What is that extra level? I don't know. In my own head.
I think he's the best character from right now versus the best character over the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm. You're not thinking of Mordecai?
Mordecai got shit over. Can I just say?
I'm not being funny. We got robbed. We got absolutely robbed of a Mordecai Undertaker match. I don't know why I said before. I don't know why Roman Reigns Undertaker. But Cena Undertaker in my head was yes. If I look at the current roster, there are loads of guys that I really, really like, and it's not a case of like I think there's shit wrestlers on there, but there's not a load of matches that I really want to see. Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker. Remember how good that was gonna be?
Yeah, it wasn't very good, is it?
I would actually take Matt Hardy versus The Undertaker now.
I wouldn't take it. Do you
It'd
know
be
what?
gimmick filled to fuck.
I'm not slagging Matt Hardy off, and can I just say, before I say this,
Yeah.
Matt Hardy, if you watch him on Raw, I don't like him, but
Oh, they've made
Matt
him another
Hardy,
guy.
yeah, they've made him another guy. Matt Hardy is one of the only wrestlers on that roster that can get the crowd, even a dead crowd, vested into his match. He's one of the only ones. He just like what I was saying before. The wrestlers don't know how to do it anymore. He does, and he'll turn to the crowd and he'll say something
Yeah, they'll just get him going.
marvelous, or whatever he does. Wonderful.
I have a thesaurus.
It's like that.
He does that, yeah. He should, that's not his goat.
That wasn't your dictator fan code.
Yes. Do not change your channels, even though you can't change your channel of a podcast. But yeah, that's it. So, in that, like, is there any sort of combination of two guys you could put together between now and next year's WrestleMania? You'd be like, that's a dream match.
Can I say 3?
What, like a combination of them fighting each other or a triple threat?
Triple threat.
Okay.
Wouldn't you like to see?
Shield.
Yeah. On the main stage.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah.
Main stage, main event. Right.
Yeah, I would.
They wasted that match. They completely wasted that match.
Did they have it?
They had it. Was it? Wasn't it a pay-per-view? Dean Ambrose won Money in the Bank or something, and Rollins fought Reigns. Reigns won the tie. He cashed in. Wasn't the next pay-per-view a triple threat? I'm sure they've had a triple threat match on pay-per-view.
One of the great pay-per-views of all time.
One of the great pay-per-views.
Jeez. It's not the fact that like people will come round, it's that Brock might come round.
Yeah, when Curtis Woodhouse found that guy slagging him up on Twitter. What if Brock knocked the shed door? That was brilliant.
Jeez. What I was going to say, it is funny though, because what you've got is a sort of an era of pay-per-views where like, okay, we have to sort of rush through the big match as it were, because what if they're injured? People come back from injury, they don't sort of wait until what is a natural sort of end game of WrestleMania. Yeah. We have it straight away now.
I agree with that, and that's why I think there should be some sort of off-season to recover from injuries. And I know you're not always going to get injured at WrestleMania, but
accumulation of things.
Yeah, just give them a break for a month, right? I know it's going to hit the ticket sales, right? And I don't know how much revenue they make off ticket, or what percentage of their revenue is off ticket sales, but give them a break for a month. And when it comes back, everyone will bloody love it. Oh, fucking hell. You're watching Raw this week. It ain't been on for a month.
Also, as well, you could put the card in advance and you'd know what matches are out.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, oh shit, I'm going to go see this guy versus this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if it's a match you've seen before, you ain't seen it for 3 months because they ain't been wrestling.
Exactly. So I think they need to do something like that.
I'll give you one.
Go
Drew
on.
McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal with Heath Slater as the guest referee. 3-man band, baby! The sad part is, we're going to get that at some point and it won't get anywhere near the recognition I want it to get.
I didn't realise Jinder Mahal was taller than Braun Strowman. When they stood in the ring last week or the week before, he's taller than Braun Strowman. I was like, what the fuck? That man's got roids and tallness.
Maybe the roids gave him tallness. That's a good point, actually. You just reminded me of one thing. When the WWE works things really well, and sometimes they stumble ass backwards into this, do you remember when the Shield for the Wyatt family, and before a punch had even been thrown, the crowd were chanting, awesome. This is awesome, yeah?
Yeah, that was quality, that was.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a dream match, but the way that was done...
It was a dream match,
close
because...
as you can get.
Yeah, because the Shield at that time were kicking everyone's ass, everyone. And they were beating top stars. I know they were put together as threes, but they were beating top stars, left, right and centre. And when the Wyatt family come along, you had 3 big bruisers there that looked like they could do some damage. That's what it's about, and just perception. Before a punch has even been thrown, exactly what you just said. Perception. This is going to be quality because there's 3 smash mouth guys against someone that cannot be beaten.
So in that regard then, have we just come full circle and proved the point that I didn't know we were going to sort of disprove, which is that dream matches do still exist in today's day and age. They just need to be built up there.
Yeah, they do. Exactly, yeah, but the Shield, that's a bit different, the Shield bit, because they had 12 months behind them where they weren't beat. That's a bit different.
I agree.
You wanted to watch them get beat, and I remember saying this to you at the time. When they finally beat them, that was a complete waste, because they did it on SmackDown. Put it on a pay-per-view, right? SummerSlam or whatever, and they finally been beaten. The crowd would go mental.
Evolution versus the Shield as well is sort of a snide of like...
That was a dream match.
Yeah.
That was a dream match. Especially blue Batista. I've always wanted to see him in blue. What was he wearing? Like wristbands? It looked like he wanted to
get the memo of what trunks to wear.
It looked like he wanted to go swimming and didn't want to drown.
Jeez. Because blue will save you.
No, not the blue.
Oh, you mean like actual armbands?
Jeez.
Man, he was training for fighting at West Ham's ground. He was also training for doing his 10 metres.
Actually starring on Jaws 8 or something.
Jaws 8 in West Ham's ground. It all comes back. We have started this podcast talking about big old Dave Batista fighting at West Ham's ground. We've ended this podcast talking about big old Dave Batista fighting at West Ham's ground when he's fighting Jaws in...
Jaws 8.
Jaws 8.
Yeah.
The ultimate sort of... Is The Rock playing the shark at this point?
No, it's not Shark. It's the guy in Bond.
Oh, right.
That's Jaws. It's...
What swerve? You spend half the movie thinking it's a shark and then that guy appears.
What, Batista sat on a beach and the man with the teeth comes and he punches him in the face?
Yeah, no, that's it. You even play the music just to swerve the crowd. Vince Russo would love it. This has been Beyond the Beermat. We've been talking about dream matches. You've been listening to a dream podcast. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.